We made it. We made it to day 9, y'all. And I'm not gonna lie, I am getting a wee bit burnt out from this trial. Not because of the well, it is actually because of the contents of at least today's today's trial. Because I had a lot to think about. There was a few things that I want to get off my chest. Okay, so welcome one and all to Adamus Chase. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I where to begin? I mean, yeah. So let's just start from from the beginning. So we are on day 9 of the Hannah Gutierrez versus the state of New Mexico, who Hannah Gutierrez is the armor of the set of Rust, which was a film made by Alec Baldwin and Joel Souza, and unfortunately an incident that occurred on October 21st, 2021. The director of photography, Helena Hutchins, has been was fatally shot and killed by the hands of Alec Baldwin. Although he had a prop gun, it fired off that had a live round in it that was not supposed to be a live round, of course, because it's a film set. And yeah, unfortunately ended Helena Hutchinson's life. And I want to just make it very, very clear. There's at no point during this trial there was ever any doubt that so many people are sharing a good amount of this blame, and they're going to need to wear that on their shoulders for the rest of their lives. I do have a few thoughts because we will break into the trial today, but I had like a shower thought. I had a shower thought earlier before before I started recording this, and yeah, I have a few thoughts. So let's just jump right in. So today's trial was mostly consistent of just OSHA people, basically non-filmmakers, essentially. Not like what we had in the last week or so, So it's a little bit different today because now it is the defense's turn to, who's represented by the armor, Hannah Gutierrez, to bring in any witnesses to the stand that they feel is important to the case for the jury to essentially decide. Now, there's this OSHA report in this trial that is very, very important to the defense. And the reason for that, for anybody who isn't familiar with OSHA, but I feel like a lot of people are, it's just the work safety hazard people. It's occupational safety hazard something. I don't know. It's a long name, but I have actually worked with OSHA before. Not directly, but there was a store that I worked in retail. I'm not going to say who the company is, but it was a rickety ass store, to say the least. And there was rickety problems. There were these like bays that you can move to get in between to get into product and whatnot. And one of them was shaky. And I've always noticed that, and I never thought anything about it until one day OSHA came in on my work and was just like grilling me, like as if like I was the one who installed the bays to begin with. And this is just a typical retail store. Many people of my position, of a just a third key supervisor position, or even sales associate for that matter, because I worked my way up. But I never had an interaction with OSHA much less, I don't think OSHA's aware that I have no control over shit like that. So they just like have like this thing where they just like tally everything up. And I don't know why they were there in the first place, to be honest with you. Probably like a few employees called in for that, and because the safety concern was pretty bad, considering how, you know, you need to be safe when you're working. And it's no different on a film set. And this is where this guy comes in. He's just a compliance officer who works for OSHA, who filled out the report essentially saying that, oh yeah, the Rust film set, yeah, not safe. It's like, cool, man. You know, so it's kind of like shit we already fucking know, but it bears, I guess, repeating because, long story short, I guess on the defense side, it shows that the neglect of safety did not just only solely came from Hannah, but it came from everywhere in production, which again, we all, I feel like, can agree to that. So this guy and this guy is part of OSHA, yada, yada, you know, whatever. And then this dude, oh wait, actually, hold on. No, there was another guy actually before him, who is a private investigator, and this dude is apparently an ex-cop who's a private investigator, who's on a witness stand, you know, called by the defense attorney, Bowles, Mr. Bowles, the defense attorney. Now, I called this man in because he's a good friend of mine and a good investigator and an ex-cop. Yeah. So, yeah, he's an interesting cat. He basically got called out by the prosecutor in saying that, like, okay, you're basically telling us shit that we already know, and why do you think, you know, there hasn't been any further investigation on everything that he basically says, between Seth Kenney to you name it, you know, Sarah Zachary, like all that. And she's just like, okay, where is that? And then the guy was like, well, I guess there's just nothing for the cops to do at that point. And she was like, cool. And then that's basically it. So that's been that. This dude is fucking crazy. This dude is apparently a firearms expert. Who came in by way of the defense attorney, Mr. Bowles, and he apparently is a huge expert on specifically Russian guns, but just guns in general. Cool, I guess. But the funniest part about it is that this dude just straight up, I don't want to play the volume because it just doesn't matter, because this shit is just so fucking funny. Because this dude straight up just like, hold on, this dude straight up, so he, hold on. So basically he pulls out this fucking gun, which apparently is the same make and model of the revolver that was used on set that killed Helena Hutchins. So A+ for literally bringing in a firearm into the fucking into the witness stand, which I think is just fucking crazy, and maybe goated for those rule breakers out there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, he's not the most he like I said, he's an interesting cat, and there's really not much else to say. Yeah, so he just pulls out his gun, and then he's just like, yeah, here's my revolver. Just in the middle of the court. I was like, wow, this dude is living, to say the least, I guess. This guy's a little wild. And you can even see too on the I didn't even notice it till right now. You could notice on the defense side that that they're even concerned. Even Hannah too. I'm like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Awesome. It's just the guy waves it. See? So hold on. I think I think we're going to see it because watch the sheriff. This dude, watch. He's just like, look, I got this firearm. Yep, this is great, right? I'm going to check this firearm and I'm going to swing it at everybody, flagging everyone in sight. I'm going to have the sheriff essentially lower the fucking gun. And again, the prosecutor which by the way, she killed it today. I mean, she grilled and cooked some motherfuckers today. It was crazy. But yeah, she's over it, which is hilarious, but clearly he's just, I mean, you know, just a bucket of gold, this guy, you know? Yeah, so it's just some goofs and gaffs, you know, just the prosecutor just like dunking on him and stuff like that. You know, it was pretty fun. So shout out to the prosecutor representing the state. Yeah, you'll notice too if you watch the trial that she her glasses on her head probably work harder and faster than even the prosecutor herself. Those glasses are flying off her head all the goddamn time. It is quite the sight to see. Okay, so that's been the lawyer talk, right? So fun stuff, few fun things, but overall, you know, it was just like a, you know, a slam dunk for what was supposed to be the defense was actually went to the prosecutors, given that now the defense is coming in with their own witnesses and whatnot. And also, apparently, rumor has it that, I don't know if it's a rumor, but they're going to do closing arguments tomorrow, which means that the jury is going to start making decisions basically right thereafter, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, it might be later in the morning because I think the judge was like, there's going to be a couple other things I guess the defense wants to bring up, or maybe another witness. I read somewhere on Twitter that that Hannah might be like going on the witness stand. I can think of several reasons why that I feel like that's bullshit and also the dumbest fucking move you can possibly make. So yeah, we'll see about that. But or it could be her stepdad, Thel Reed, which is you know, we'll see because he's also an armorer. And then, you know, he'll have time to review all the stuff, and then, you know, we'll see what happens thereafter, you know. But yeah, so I want to talk about just to, you know, just to give a bigger perspective on this case, basically. Look, from a filmmaker's perspective, this was a fucking shit show. It was such a shit show on an abominable amount. Like just such a heavy amount of like caution and like just everything. Every single piece of safety concern you can think of on a film set has been thrown out. And I'm not even just talking about the incident, too. The incident is the incident, right? There's other shit between, you know, discharges and apparently, you know, a fuck around with the pay. But, you know, that has nothing to do with the case. But there's been talks that, like, you know, there's been a mess around with payments and stuff like that. Yeah, and then, of course, Alec Baldwin and all that. And also, I think I mentioned it before, but Alec Baldwin is going to have his own trial, which may or may not be televised, but I do know the judge is going to be representing that case as well of Alec Baldwin versus the state for involuntary manslaughter. Same thing with Hannah. So, in my opinion, I feel like this is on the shoulders of Hannah. This has been her second set on this film. and I want to choose my words carefully here because I have worked with armors who done none of the shit that she has done. But also, I have worked with people who have worked more than one job on a film set, and that's fucked up. I've done that, even. But that was back when I was a production assistant, and, you know, I was just fresh into the industry, and I was, you know, helping out every other department, as you probably would as a production assistant. Not like on a unionized set. I know a lot of people are going to be like, PAs don't do that for any other department. It's like, yeah, sometimes on an indie shoot with no money, you're helping out as much as you possibly can, you know? So whatever. And yeah, you get to know, all the pitfalls and all the experiences that you get, and you learn from them. And the thing that Hannah failed to realize is that being an armorer is basically like being an animal wrangler in a way. Because animals, you know, I don't want to say can just always get out of control, but anything can happen. Sometimes you're not even supposed to pet some of the animals. Although I've seen some cute doggies on set, and all I want to do is give them head rubs. You know, sometimes like the wrangler's like, please don't do that. You know, like maybe like on wrap or something. But yeah, just don't touch the while they're trying to, you know, do their thing. But it's sometimes I can't help it. I can't help it. But those things can also get out of control. And when they do get out of control, they're not going to look at the first AD. They're not going to look at, you know, well, I mean, they might if there are safety concerns, which, again, you know, neither here nor there. This is hypothetical. So if the animal wrangler has an animal that accidentally bites somebody or tramples somebody or, you know, knocks something down very expensive or whatever, causes any damage on set, right? That is immediately looked upon the wrangler and the wrangler alone, usually, right? Now, I never heard of a wrangler who has done PA shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a thing. You don't, there's no reason for you to do that. As much as there's no reason for you to be a prop assistant and an armor. Being an armor, you're bringing in guns and never live ammo, but you're coming in with blanks. You're coming in with weapons, live functioning weapons, right? And it's you 9 out of 10 times, even if it's a rubber gun, you want to ensure the safety of the entire crew and talent, that you know exactly what you're doing at all times, no matter what. Hannah didn't do that. Hannah, you know, whether rightfully so or unrightfully so, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, she loaded the weapon in Alex's gun because she vehemently defended that. She said, I did it through all her police interrogations. And she even went as far as to say that I should have checked more. I should have done this. I should have done that. And she really implicated herself. And this was like the turning point for me on that. And this was like not a week ago, but it was like a few days ago at least, like a few trials ago or a few days in the same trial ago. And watching those police interrogations with the armor had really shed a huge light into everything, because I was led to believe that the set was the whole entire production was setting Hannah up to fail. And in many ways they did. But in the most pertinent, most important thing about this is that the armor sole responsibility of handling this weapon was handled in the most irresponsible way. And they didn't even roll camera, So not that's important, but the reason why I bring that up is because the careless, safety concerns just goes out the fuck. Because usually when you're rehearsing, at least as far as I've been experiencing, when you rehearse or when you do anything, sometimes you have to use prop guns. Like, I've been on a set where an armor was getting there a little bit later than what the crew call time is. So the prop master had like foam guns, like rubber guns, essentially. They're more foam, but they keep saying rubber guns. I don't know what they really mean by rubber guns. I've seen like foam guns more, but it doesn't matter, right? They're fake guns. They're there's nothing right? They're foam. So when you have that, you can use that for rehearsal. You can use that to block and whatnot because you don't really need the weapon. And once you do fly in the weapon, the real weapons with the proper safety and all that bringing in, the lighting crew and camera would adjust however that gun looks to make it look cooler, I guess, right? So all in all, I do think that the armor is very it's very important, and in a way that the guns enter the set, exit the set, go into the actor's hands, getting out of the actor's hands and whatnot. Sorry, I'm just writing something down. So there's no reason, right? There's no reason to have a live ammo on set, any live ammo, and there's no reason to mix essentially bullets in a fanny pack that apparently has dividers, which, yeah, my fanny pack also has dividers, but that's not to say that my shit is not mixing. I have batteries and, my fucking like surveillance and shit for walkies. Like, it gets all mixed up. You know what I mean? At a certain point, just things get mixed up. And it happens. We're all human. We're not all 100% organized, which is why I felt like even during the trial with all the pictures of the prop cart and shit, I'm just like, well, they were 3 weeks into the shoot. Again, there's no reason to have carelessness for weapons, but I've seen art department carts that just sometimes look discombobulated, just so fucking unorganized. And that's different, right? Because you're flying in props in and out, and when you do have the downtime, you're trying to fix everything, but then shit will just immediately be messy again because you gotta, once the camera turns around, the whole world flips around, so then you have to switch all sorts of shit. It becomes a mess, depending on how small or, big the production is, of course. But like, shit gets everywhere, and that happens. When you're an armorer, that's no excuse. That's no excuse at all. And we've seen that even with an expert armor. Well, the case's expert armor, who's Brian Carpenter. Shout out to him, goated armor. And we see that, and I wish they nailed it more, but essentially, yeah, it begins and ends with the armor. When it comes to safety, when you have guns on a film set, it begins and ends with the armor, and even production pointed to the armor the moment the cops arrived. Well, the one cop arrived, and that's just part of the job. That's your position and whatnot. So for me as a filmmaker and someone who's worked in art department and been in this industry, not long by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel long enough to see and understand that safety is not only the biggest priority, but it's like a no-brainer. It's like something. It's like it's like part of it. You need a camera in order to shoot a movie. You need to have safety in order to have an efficient and good production. That's just kind of, it's all part of it, right? Every department counts, and that includes safety. So again, it boggles my mind. And here's where I really, really thought about it. This is where my long shower my long shower thoughts happen. And this is me as just a normal normie human dude, Adam, talking right now. I don't think Hannah should be incarcerated and sent to prison when there are so many variables and so many things that were fucking like turds to a wind that nobody accounted for, not even Alec Baldwin. Now, and the reason I bring this up is because I think about everyone on this shoot and how Dave Halls, the first AD, got a plea deal. 6 months probation, just got a plea deal, He got immunity. Nobody can fuck with him now. He can walk away with agreeing to being part of the investigation and answering whatever questions, whatever fucking deal they made him. I don't know the exact details, but that's something that not only he did, but also the prop master, Sarah Zachary. She also did. Now, the contents and the details of it, I have no idea. By the way, I know my camera shuts off. I don't know why. After like 30 minutes, my camera decides to just turn off but turn right back on again. I don't know why. And I'm not going to edit around it because we're doing this raw, baby. Okay? So, if First AD, prop master, Alec Baldwin, not right now Alec Baldwin, right? Because now he's on trial for military manslaughter. But I'll say this. If the armor is going to be convicted, then there is absolutely no reason why Alec wouldn't get convicted, if that makes sense. So basically, if you're going to send the armor, you got to send the producer and the main actor who pulled that trigger. I don't know how else I can describe it, because if that is not the case, right, especially in the case of Sarah and Dave, the first AD and the prop master, I feel like incarcerating the armor is, in my opinion, a bridge too far. Because I don't believe that people should just be incarcerated for the sake of, you are part of this whole entire network of unsavory people who have not taken any consideration for safety. Now, do I want that? I'm not going to go as far as to say that I don't want her to, first and foremost, none of these people are going to be in the film industry, right? They're excommunicated. And if they aren't excommunicated, they will be. In my opinion, listen, I've been a fan of Alec. Well, I don't want to say fan. Fan, that's a little too, it's a bridge. Yeah, that's a little too much. I like some of Alec's works. I do like some of his work. Alec Baldwin is a classically trained thespian. He is an actor, and he's good at it. I'm not, but I see for what information I have in front of me and what all this really entails. And I feel like if there's going to be a conviction, there's easily a conviction for all of them, because it doesn't quite make sense to me that if you pin one person as the person who is the done all be all fucked up person on this set, there's too many variables on this set. Now, if the set was 100% amazing, ran smooth, safety checks all the time, and then this shit happens, then I would say I don't know what else to say other than the armor's it's not swaying in the way that she thinks it's going to sway. She's going to be found guilty 100%. And I do think she is. And I do think she will be found guilty. It's just a part of me just doesn't want to see somebody incarcerated, because it just feels like the worst has already happened. And whether or not incarcerating them is going to really cement that lesson, I feel like doesn't really apply to the overall situation. You know what I mean? But then here's the thing. As you see in the trial, and the thing that really rubbed me the wrong way with the armor, which made me sway more into the decision of looking guilty, or basically being guilty, is when Hannah seems like her attention is just kind of elsewhere at certain points during the case where I felt she needed to be focused and on point. Like the key dolly grip. He had a very, very emotional testimony on the witness stand, like I want to say second or third day on the trial. And it was emotional because he was right there in the church, right there in between the director and DP, Helena Hutchins. And he recounted this in my opinion, great detail. But I can tell and I can feel that loss, because he was just feet away from the DP who was pronounced dead, essentially. And there's no going back from that. And that's why I feel, and so let me just take a step back just so I can recollect my thoughts, because it's still baffling to me. The armor, when Court TV pans to, or cuts to Hannah, the armor, I mean, she shows a little bit of emotion in certain testimonies, but not really. And that one in particular really rubbed me the wrong way. And then thereafter, I don't know what it is. I'm sure you, lawyer people or legal people can probably have a reason for this. But I can tell you from my perspective, if I'm in her shoes, the last thing I want to be doing is giving any indication to the jury that I don't give a shit about this. That I don't care, the information and, the timeline and the timeline of events that are being, retold, essentially. I would be sitting there silent and paying attention and feeling the feelings that I do feel. Because what she did, what the armor has been doing, is showing anything but. And it confused the shit out of me. I was like, I would be fighting for my life. Like, what the fuck are you doing? She is talking to her attorneys and she's passing but not so much passing notes as she's just like whispering to everybody. She's just like, just like constantly whispering to everybody in the middle of people giving the filmmakers giving their witness testimonies. And she is there just whispering in everybody's ear. What the fuck, man? You're fighting for your life here. And that was the thing that pissed me off. I was just like, what the fuck, man? No, like, I don't know. Like, no sort of, like, even if she just sat there, just like, kind of like a bump on the log, just like staring off into space, like, then I could probably give a reason as to she's just in another planet right now. She's just in a haze, So I don't get it. I'm just like, what the fuck? You're just whispering and you're talking to your attorney. That's why you hired them. They're supposed to do their job. Now, you can argue if they're doing their jobs correctly or not. Well, that's, I'm no big city lawyer, but this has been a shit show. So I'm just saying that the armor could have had just a fucking shred of attention on any one of these testimonies. And she did with the director. But if I was on the jury, it's not sufficient enough at all. Because in my mind, if I'm in the jury, I see this and I'm like, wait a second. Why are you whispering all the fucking time? I'm seeing people who are breaking down in tears on the witness stand. And then I turn to the defense, to the armor, and she's just like stone cold. And then whispering. It's like, okay, cool. I mean, I guess we don't have to give a shit about this. Another filmmaker gone for no reason. No fucking reason. A talented filmmaker. A DP. Director of photography who makes every frame, ideally look like, fucking flawless, like a painting or a like a big giant portrait or a landscape or whatever. You depend on those cinematographers. And they're important as much as every other department, which is why I call them filmmakers, because they're all filmmakers. We're all filmmakers. And at a time, you can argue that, Hannah, the armor, is a filmmaker. They're important. Armors are important. But not anymore. And I don't see her as that. Because this shit is just, it's beyond me. And whether anybody disagrees or agrees, I understand. It's just, I see this for what it is, and it just really rubs me the wrong way. And I, might be overthinking it. I don't know. But it's just very troubling to defend someone like, the armor, and she's doing all this. Hannah is just like kind of just, in many ways, shitting the fucking bed. And there's no, there's no circumventing that. There's no redirect here. The jury is going to make their decision probably today. Latest probably Thursday. So those are basically my thoughts. It's just emotional. This whole thing is very, it's enlightening, it's emotional. I learned a lot, you know. And we'll talk about it more after the trial, and I'll you know, I might give my 2 cents into everything once more, but yeah, it's one of those things I've been thinking about. I mean, thought about it a little bit, you know, every so often as this trial was progressing, but today was definitely one of those things that I was just like so conflicted and just don't know how I feel, and don't think that, like, you know, I'm trying to be, I'm not trying to, you know, I don't know, like, I'm not trying to be some sort of like altruistic, you know, humanitarian dude. It's just, I know people who've been in jail, in prison even, and it's just, it's rough. Like, it's rough, and you see it, you feel it. Like, sometimes they don't even need to describe it to you. You just know how fucking brutal it is, you know, depending on the crime, of course. But, you know, it's just, she's not a murderer, you know. She's not, you know, she didn't do any like horrible, inhumane, heinous acts. This was reckless. This was irresponsible. And it was downright fucking shameful. Awful. But do I think it's evil? Do I think this was done with malicious intent? I don't know. That feels like it's you're going into a made up land, you know? So anyways, that's about it with that. We're going to go into deliberations hopefully soon tomorrow after the closing argument. So we're going to well, first off, we're going to see whatever defense has tricks up their sleeves and bring up any witness testimony, or their last witness testimony, and hopefully they knock it out of the park, because I think the jury has made up their mind, at least for me. So, you know, this is just definitely something to learn and to think about. And yeah, this has been one hell of a ride. Okay, so we're moving on. Oscars watch list, everybody. Let's get into it. Watch Past Lives. I actually watched it just right before, like, I took a shower right after and hopped on here, because I was thinking about doing, like, just skipping today's pod and just moving it tomorrow, because the trial was a little weak, and I was like, I don't know. And then, you know, after I watched Past Lives, I was like, hang on, no, I got to talk about this, because this movie just fucking rules, dude. This Oscar, I'm not going to lie, this Oscar season is cooked up some pretty good shit so far. You know what I mean? This is, and I got to say, I really liked Anatomy of a Fall. I got to say, Past Lives is fucking, it is on the top right now. It is on the top, because first off, Past Lives is a film written, or I think co-written maybe. Yeah, written and directed by Celine Song, who apparently this is like basically her first feature. Yeah, I think this is her. Yeah, this is her first feature, and it is, because that's what was most surprising to me, is because how this movie was made. It felt like this was a filmmaker who has been already like grinding and working through the industry for a few years, several years even. This is like her first feature, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's the talent in it is amazing. The actors are amazing. I don't know where to begin with this movie other than that I love the craft of the story. It's a phenomenal love story between essentially two friends who have at one point fallen in love with one another, and they just grew apart. And that's just the story of that. It's definitely a romance thing, but not in a way that feels like the ending is what we all thought the ending was going to be, if that makes sense. So we're going to get into spoilers of this, okay? And now I'm going to try to do my best to let you know we're doing spoilers, but I hope it goes without saying that. When I'm bringing up watch list, I'm going, baby. I'm firing off, dude. Okay? So, the story starts off with the two main characters. And I don't want to butcher any names. Because it's, of course, these are Korean names. And by the way, some of those beautiful people I've seen on this cast, like, this is just like, they're all like, every single one is a try. Even Arthur, my man Arthur, dude. And we're gonna talk about him in a second. But yeah, it was great. Everyone's beautiful in this cast, which is, I don't know. It was just that was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? So yeah, I think it's a phenomenal love story. What I appreciated a lot about it, and I thought was always kind of like a thing with like romance things, is that like, I thought at one point, and I'll tell you the point in which I knew that this movie is going to head into a whole different direction, for the good, was literally in the beginning, like when they were kids, and then they, Nora, the main character, moves to New York to become a playwright, and her friend stuck around Korea and eventually went to China and whatnot. And one part during their so they have these like Skype calls, which, by the way, I don't know how they do this with Apple. They just basically make the iOS look like the iOS from that time period, is like 2010, before 2010. So you got Skype and whatnot, and the sound and like how fucking loud and jarring it is sometimes, whenever you make a call or somebody calls you and shit, they nailed it. So whatever. Anyways, they go on these Skype calls, and this has been like 12 years later since they've been apart, I think. Or it might have been longer. Or maybe it was 8 years? I don't know, but sometime more than 5 years have passed. So a lot of time has passed. And Nora's in New York studying, going to school, becoming a playwright. And, she is on Skype calls with this friend of hers, her best friend, essentially, since they were in childhood. And they talk to each other every single day. And at one point, they just grow like exhausted. And even her best friend like starts to feel the exhaustion of just being long distance and not being there with your partner and stuff. And I just like that ruined me just by that alone. I'm just like, oh fuck, I've been there with just nothing but FaceTime dates, and it just, yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking. But seeing this and seeing their relationship basically kind of go at a immediate standstill, because she brings up, she's like, listen, I don't know how long I could be doing these Skype calls, because we've been calling every single day and I want to focus on my shit, and I don't know if you're going to be coming out to see me, and I want to see you, but you are already like kind of on your way to another country, to China, and we're going to be even farther away. So or maybe it's close. It doesn't matter. But basically, like, there's going to be no time for us, and you're not going to come to New York. And he was just like, yeah. and that was at that point, I was like, what the fuck? Like, go to her. Who, like, I mean, he wants to study Mandarin, and he's always wanted to study Mandarin. Like, that's phenomenal and all. Homie, get a Babbel subscription and go get your girl, bro. And then it cuts to another 12 years. And then we see her with basically married to this other dude, Arthur, my man Arthur. He is just a regular run-of-the-mill, white dude. He's just a typical American. Well, not typical, but he's also a writer. And you can tell that, like, when they even met, their chemistry really melded. And it was sweet. It's very cute. And you love to see it. So when that relationship blossoms just by itself alone, they get married and whatnot. So they get married, and her best friend, and this is like 12 years later, right? So she's already essentially moved on for the most part. We're going to get into it. She gets contacted by him, and he is coming to New York finally after, years, right? And they haven't seen each other literally since they were children. They Skyped together, sure, when they were like in college and whatnot, but this is different. Like, they're face to face now, And oh man, I'm getting goosebumps even just thinking about it. There's this one scene where he is just standing there with, and I love the innocence of him, like just holding his backpack, just like waiting for, Nora to show up and stuff like that. I'm like, dog, oh man, oh boy, boys, how many of you have been there? Jesus. So when I see him just kind of like looking around, and finally Nora calls out to him, he turns and sees her for the first time, and it's like you can again, this actor, I don't know if he's nominated. I'll look at it later, but my God, he needs an award, because you see his face. You feel his heart go straight into his feet immediately when he sees her. And it's like such a beautiful shot, because it's only focused on him for like a good solid few beats, just to get the full range of emotions. He's like happy, he's ecstatic, he's anxious, and he just doesn't know what to do. He's just like, he kind of just stands there, and finally she, they have like both they both come closer into frame, and she just reaches out and hugs him. And seeing that embrace start off from her is basically like that same embrace of like a friend you haven't seen in fucking forever, and you immediately start to see that dynamic. He still doesn't know what the fuck to do with his feelings, right? It wasn't until more closer to the end. But just to keep it 100. Oh my God, what am I thinking? So before he shows up, right? Was it before or was it during? It might have been during. I don't remember. It might have been during, but basically there was also another moment that I want to talk about. And this was the turning point of the film for me, where, it was when they met. Yeah, it was when they met, because the scene was after they were hanging out all day, and she's just kind of like feeling these also conflicted feelings at a certain point, right? Like there was one point where like he hands a phone to a tourist and is like, "Oh, can you take a picture of like him and Nora, together for a photo?" And you could tell she wanted to reach out and like wrap her arms around him, but she immediately like had to just like take a beat and just take a step back and just be like, okay, we're gonna be we're gonna keep a good distance between us, you know, like high school like prom style, you know, between you and your girl, so God can be there in the middle. You know what I'm saying? So that happened, and she comes home to her husband, Nora, and Nora says, I think I fucked up. I think I really fucked up seeing him. And I was like, okay, wow, she's just being fucking honest. Wow, okay, this is crazy. And because she was like, I think what's happening is what you said was going to happen. And that is, I think he came here for different reasons, not here as a friend. Or so much so. And she describes it in detail, like, listen, like, I kind of put that shit behind me. He is just kind of like, you know, he's a something that I love, or someone I love, but like, it's just like, I'm a different person, but I'm still that same girl. And remember that. I'm the same person, but I'm still that girl. And he kind of reasons with her in a way. Arthur, my man Arthur, he kind of shucked something that I was just like, oh fuck, this is where the movie really fucking takes a turn that I didn't realize. And he was just like this is part of a great love story, or at least the beginning of a phenomenal love story. And she was like, what the fuck do you mean? What are you talking about? And he was like, think about it. I'm the American white guy, your best friend of years, who you developed an emotional attachment to, kind of comes back after so many years. And you guys just fall back into place of where y'all once were. And it's a beautiful thing. And he even admits it. He was like, he was like, I can't be in the middle of that. I don't want to be in the way of that. I know I'm doing Trump hand. I do. No one wants to be in the middle of this. It's a beautiful love story. It's great. It's wonderful. There's so much to discern from this, because he essentially gives up and says, like, I don't know. You tell me that you don't have any feelings for him. You tell me that, like, you know, it's all good, but is it all good? Is it? And it wasn't like a flash of like immediate jealousy. There was a little bit of jealousy, of course, because I would be if I was in his shoes too. So it was such a beautiful moment that I didn't quite see coming at all. And that's when everything kind of shifted. And this was like, I want to say an hour into the film. So we're well into the second act, right? So I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, how the fuck is this how is this gonna end? And it ended the way it was supposed to end. When she mentioned it to her friend, that I'm still that girl, but I'm that little girl we were best friends, you were best friends with, to her best friend, but we're different now. We've grown and whatnot. And, you know, and shout out to the costume department, because they made it really, really specific to, like, he is just like an ordinary dude in an ordinary shit. Like, he looks like a tech bro. He looks like a, you know, not a tech bro. I'm sorry. No. My man got fresher threads than that. He looks like he would work in tech, but like high-end tech. You know what I mean? Like he's like that kind of dude, and he, you know, walks around with the backpack just like when he was a kid. You know, callbacks. This movie's nothing but callbacks, and I fucking love it, you know? Two things I love in a movie: getting to the bottom of things and fucking callbacks, bro. I love that shit so goddamn much. So she says that, you know, I'm still that girl, but I'm just a different person now, grown. And he is, again, he is like, he feels conflicted, but he is also very, very, very respectable of that boundary. So he never crosses that boundary where, you know, like in most fucking love stories, you see like the dude oftentimes cross boundaries when someone's already in another relationship, and it's just like a weird thing that I don't know any dude, at least friends of mine, would ever fucking do. Which is basically like just commit infidelity, just be like, yeah, I love my best friend, and I'd rather be with her than the husband that I fell in love with, you know, ages ago. And she mentions that to Arthur, or to her husband. And it's just like, you say you're just a typical, you know, Jewish American man. I'm just a typical Korean immigrant. You know, it's like, but we met each other, like we saw each other, and we connected and grew, and, you know, have a life with, you know, have a life together and a beautiful relationship. And I just found it so refreshing to just see a love story where even he is respectable, and Arthur is respectable for Nora to see her friend, but equally the dude, her best friend, is very, very respectable to even to Arthur, especially towards the end of the film. But I'm getting ahead of myself, okay? I still got a lot more to talk about. So you know, over the scenes, you start to see that, like, oh, well, maybe there's a little bit of a thing, you know, there might be a little bit of a connection we don't know. And it kind of ultimately goes to a place where, like, in the last 20 minutes of the film, it sort of drove home where it's like, basically the level of respect that she has for her husband and the respect that she has for her best friend remain the same through and through the film. Like, no one's heart was broken except for hers, because there was a moment where towards the end of the film, where it was his last day, her best friend's last day, and she walks. It's the end of the night, and she walks him to outside to get an Uber. And so these are two best friends, just like in the beginning of the movie, walking and just, you know, just being in each other's presence, not much talking. And he looks at her, you know, like he did when he was a kid, and just, you know, just kind of admires her, you know, and is a little scared, is a little like he has so many thoughts running through his brain and stuff. And, you know, it's just a sweet, nice, wholesome moment. And it gets to the part, and this fucked me up. It gets to a part where he asks her, like, you know, in a different life, in a different thing, because they have this whole idea that Inyun, which is like basically a term in Korean that is like passion for each other that is just so, like, it will last through layers of time, essentially, through many layers of time, and you know, different situations and whatnot, you know, from like either, you know, two people walking down a street, sharing a table, or just even animals, like two birds perching on a branch. You know, you just don't know, but you know that, you know, they're there for a reason, and that they should be thankful for just even having the time and the presence of just being with somebody who you thought was just going to be part of your past, was going to be forever, just kind of like a, you know, like a distant memory, and just kind of coming full circle with it when they describe that. And she just responds with, you know, like, yeah, maybe we were something in a different lifetime. I don't know. And there was a moment where before he leaves, she sees him as kids, like sees each other as kids. And it was that one frame, and it's quiet and it's dark. And it's this beautiful shot of just them as just kids, because at the end of the day, they are kids, but they've grown to be bigger human beings. And I never seen such an eloquent, beautiful way of just bookending something that is ultimately a love story, but between two passionate best friends, two passionate friends, but couldn't have been more, personality-wise, so far apart. But yet they found each other in that time in Korea when they were kids. And I didn't think a movie would just fucking do that to me. It just had no right to fucking do that. Like already in the beginning, it was just like setting up. I'm just like, okay, all right, we're gonna see, two lovers coming back in the end. Great, awesome. But it just that happens, and it's fucking awesome, and how it's shot is just gorgeous. The production design is amazing, and one shot in particular too, when they were kids specifically, was they were playing in this like park, I guess, and there was a statue. This like stone statue, and the frame was like two faces, and there was a tree in the middle, basically with two faces on both sides of it, and it just shows that like this is the end, this is the mark of them gonna be separated and whatnot, because they were always together, but this is the moment where things are just gonna grow apart. And that scene after was when they were kids, like she just basically dropped that, like, yeah, I'm going to New York with my family, my family's moving to America, so yeah, I gotta go, and just kind of dropped it on her best friend, on homie, like a ton of fucking bricks, and that hurt him. And he got that that satisfaction of just having that full circle being closed again as they're adults, and they get to talk about these things and share the feelings that when you're a kid it's impossible to share. And this happens, this moment of just closure. And it ended like probably in the best way fucking possible. So yeah, it's just fuck amazing, just an amazing film. Yeah, just pure classic cinema. It's not even like, oh, it's a dope film. I feel like this is a new classic. This is just fuck. If this is what Celine Song starts with, the director and writer, she started with this film as her first feature. I mean, good fucking God. She killed it. She killed it. I don't know what else to say. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Recommend. Top of my rating for sure so far in the Oscar list. Granted, we've only had 2 movies so far. So I watched Anatomy of a Fall and now Past Lives, and I got a few other films in the docket here that I still need to see. I'm gonna watch The Zone of Interest, American Fiction, The Holdovers, Maestro, Poor Things, and Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon, I did try to watch, but I fell asleep, and it wasn't my fault. It was not my fault. I came back from a 2-day shoot that I had. The turnaround was insane, and I had no fucking sleep. And this was a while ago. So yeah, I haven't had the intention of seeing it and fell asleep. So I'm gonna watch the movie properly. I promise you. Along with the other films. So, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate you. Love you. That's about it, dude. Okay? Thank you so much, everybody. Ta-ta for now.